Reportedly, US has issued new restriction on exporting 40 nanometer and below chip-making equipment to China. How will this new act impact the supply chain?
Those things has been in place already, that the US equipment suppliers cannot supply the equipment to China, and they're following those laws or export license practices that are in place. So first of all, there is a substantial amount of equipment already in China. There is plenty of capacity, which we believe is not fully utilized. The second thing is that we think that the Chinese companies are stepping up quite a bit on filling those gaps that are potentially there, especially in process equipment like etchers or deposition equipment. Replacing KLA with the process control is a lot more difficult because it's highly differentiated, unique technology that KLA has. And so those definitely will be a factor from that perspective. But in general, we believe that Chinese companies will be filling in some of the gaps that are there already. And what we understand is they are already doing that.
In the long term, it's going to hurt American companies' business?
It's not long term, it's short term. I mean, there is a customer, ready to buy customer in China, and because of the legislation, you cannot deliver. So it's not a long term, it's a short term. In the long term, you would probably see the Chinese companies have a bigger footprint in the global equipment markets, especially in the process equipment side. So because we already see it to some extent. Then just the question is how fast and how these Chinese companies can advance their technology.
China has a goal of 70% chip self-sufficiency by 2025. Would all the export restrictions from US accelerate this process?
I mean, that's probably an unrealistic goal, but let's put this way that China has shown the willingness to invest accordingly to add that capacity. And we have seen the trajectory of China as a manufacturing base of chips gaining share. So the capacity share is growing and the production share is growing. So in certain ways, we don't think that will be changing. Where the biggest challenge is the really, really advanced leading edge technologies, which are very few companies capable of anyway, such as TSMC or Samsung or Intel. Those are the leaders in the technology, and it effectively looks right now that none of the world's companies can really match those three in the technology. So that won't change. But then for the specialty segments, we're definitely sure that China will continue to gain share and in production, and that is likely to continue.
US is also putting more bans on EDA tools and other chip-making gears. How will Chinese EV development be affected?
I'm not super EDA expert myself, but the fundamentals of the EV doesn't necessarily require super advanced technologies because it's more about power and power management. Then certain features in a car may be lacking that requires really advanced design and capabilities. In our view, it may limit, but it's also may not be a critical issue for continuing, because at the end of the day, the cars and EVs are dependent on the battery technology. And the advancement is of battery technology rather than the latest and greatest semiconductor technology. So those may be the factor there.
Then how do you interpret bans on NAND flash memory manufacturing equipment?
Well, basically for NAND memory, one of the critical systems for the manufacturing of NAND memory are etchers in the deposition tools, CVD tools, and some ALD tools. And some of those tools are already supplied, not from US, but from Japan particularly. And the requirements for those tools are different compared to logic, where you refer to 28 nanometer or 40 nanometer or 10 nanometer. That may not be as effective as what's been going on the logic side.
Since most of the tools are supplied by Japanese companies, would there be a problem if Japan joined the chip war?
Then, of course, that would have an impact if Japan joined that.